Last year was pretty rough, I ain't even gon' front. Couple times thought about going back to the bottle. Couple times thought about that blunt. Started reminiscing on my past, when I wore them heels and made quick cash. But while I was looking back, I hit the brakes real fast. Conviction set in and gave me whiplash. Been struggling for a while, now my flesh snapped its fingers, and too many times I bowed down. Playing hide and seek with problems, but not seeking the one who can solve them. And I'm tired now. Living for God ain't a day, it's a lifestyle. Walking in purpose, no more being tied down. Trying to drink with my eyes open, and I know it takes work, but don't worry, I bought my own towel. Till I leave this earth, I'll be learning. He gives grace and I don't deserve it. It ain't easy living in this world for him, but you can't convince me it ain't worth it. If you know it ain't easy, you can say amen, amen. And if you ain't perfect, you can say amen, amen. If you refuse to quit, you can say amen, 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 amen. Everybody say amen, 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 amen. Everybody say amen, amen. If you still here, say amen, amen. If you trust him, say amen, 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 amen. If you won't quit, say amen, amen. If you trust him, say amen, amen. If you still standing, say amen, amen.
God watching, yeah, God watching, angels watching, yeah, the angels watching. I walk with God, yeah, I talk to God. Can't walk with y'all, I can't talk to y'all. We can't talk at all. If I ever fall, I'm caught by God. If you believe in him, say amen. If you seeking him, say amen. If you trust him, say amen. If you love him, say amen. Every morning when the day begin, must know we will pray again. Even though I'm just a man, I will say amen, amen. It's the second coming. Here we go again. It's not the battle outside. You must go within. The soul within. Don't go with sin. We must go with him. We must go and win. We gotta make it count. You know what it's about. That's why we gon' shout. Amen, 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 amen.
Everybody say amen, amen. If you still here, say amen, amen. If you trust him, say amen, 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 amen. If you won't quit, say amen, amen. If you trust him, say amen, amen. If you still standing, say amen, amen. I'm at a place in my life where I don't have time for fake folks. I ain't had a game system since '02. In other words, I don't play those. Temptations coming back to back, talking back to back, no Drake though. But I'm trusting in him, I'm in the potter's hands and he molding me Play-Doh. Amen. If you know it ain't easy, you can say amen, amen. And if you ain't perfect, you can say amen, amen. If you refuse to quit, you can say amen, amen, amen.